Flames licked the night sky, consuming the last remaining logs of the Hale family's legacy. If Mary retreated tonight, Hale Thorn Ranch would change hands forever. Her ranch, her honor, her only refuge would be reduced to ashes. She gripped the gun tightly, her chest pounding with terror, but her feet were firmly planted on the dry ground. The frontier held no room for naivety. The hired hand coughed violently, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. His blood-stained hand clutched at Mary's skirt. "Miss Hale," he hissed through clenched teeth. "Not Native Americans. They ride horses with iron horseshoes." From the shadows of the hillside, the ghosts of the desert emerged. Mary held her breath. The enemy she had been taught to fear stood before her. But the leading man did not charge with a death howl. He was quiet, sharp, and completely outside of any preconceived notions she had ever known. The warrior stared directly at her, a deep, guttural voice tearing through the roaring flames. "Go back home, Mary Hale. This fire was made to make you flee." Mary's hands trembled. Why did an Apache warrior know her name? The man tossed a tattered piece of animal hide at her feet, bearing her father's cattle mark. "Your father is dead," he said, letting the hot wind carry the words straight to Mary's mind. "Because he kept a promise." 3 weeks earlier, the smoke and flames hadn't yet consumed this place, but Hale Thorn Ranch had been silently dying. Mary returned from Tucson after her father's funeral, without any illusions of a vast fortune. What awaited her was a house groaning in the scorching sun and a dying stream. "The farm has been depleted for a long time, Mary," Beth's voice began, filled with the anxiety of someone about to lose their home. She spoke of the dwindling water, the fence constantly being broken down at night, and Silas Drake, the powerful man who, every now and then, sent men to demand payment of a debt her father had never mentioned. But the frontier doesn't teach people to succumb to numbers. Looking at the suddenly appearing enormous debts, her instincts told her a noose was slowly tightening. It wasn't her father's handwriting. Someone was weaving a perfect lie to devour this inheritance. Amidst the yellowed pages, a hastily written note from Jacob Hale delivered a final warning. If Thorn Creek collapses, the stream above will be the next target. A secret was buried with his death. In the West, the most dangerous bandits never wore masks. They wore expensive coats and carried legal papers. Silas Drake appeared, coldly announcing, unless she paid off the debt immediately, the northern lands would be his. He awaited the collapse and the tearful despair of a young orphan girl. But Mary didn't break down. She insisted on seeing the border map. With a single glance, Mary realized the northern boundary marker had been altered, shifted miles upstream. "A young woman can't hold land in the midst of Apache riots," Silas threatened. He held a forced auction as a knife to her throat. But she didn't argue emotionally. Mary took notes, resolutely refusing to put pen to paper without a copy from the land office. As Silas turned, sunlight accidentally shone through the map scroll in his hand, revealing a faint, ominous line. A thin, unnamed pencil line running straight from the farm boundary up the mountain range, targeting Thorn Creek Spring. To defeat a monster, you have to know what it craves. Mary refused to be a passive victim. She ransacked her father's office, searching for what Silas Drake truly desired. There was no government seal, no recognition by white law, only a life or death contract written in English and Chiricahua Apache symbols. Downstream water for livestock, upstream stream untouched. The old housekeeper shuddered at the sight of the memento. Memories of a night many years ago flooded back. She recalled Jacob's disappearance for 3 days in the Deadly Mountains. When he returned, the deep wound on his shoulder had been covered with a strange herbal remedy of the natives. From that night, Jacob absolutely forbade any cowboys from setting foot in the headwaters. It was rumored that he had sold his soul to the devil. Her father would not compromise with the devil. He had established a blood border for peace. The silent figure on the cliff last night hadn't come to take her life. He had come to see if she was worthy of her father's promise. And the next morning, on the wooden boundary post, he left his name. In the West, fear spreads faster than cholera. Will Moss delivered news that could decimate an entire town in an instant. A troop of Apache soldiers was advancing toward the ranch. The sheriff ordered everyone to evacuate to town before sunset. Leaving meant handing over her father's inheritance to Silas Drake. But seeing the old butler's panicked eyes, Mary couldn't gamble with her life. She took her most valuable possessions, her gun, her original papers, and her utmost vigilance. But death doesn't wear Apache clothes. From the cliff, the ambushers fired down. They cursed in broken English mixed with Spanish. It wasn't a raid by natives, it was bounty hunters hired to eliminate her. They appeared like ghosts, dealing with the mercenaries in deadly silence. He had just saved her life. But in this land, trust was a luxury Mary couldn't afford. Sani didn't bat an eye at her gun. The warrior pointed to the corpse at his feet. This one was paid by your town. Ask who sent the boy. Mary slowly turned her gun toward Will Moss. He avoided her gaze. A perfect play was slowly falling apart. They retreated into the shadow cut, a forgotten rift in time. Beth didn't make it. A gnawing guilt gripped Mary. If she hadn't left the farm, Beth would have lived. The pain transformed into overwhelming rage. She wanted to take the body back to town, to throw the truth in the sheriff's face. "Get out of the way!" Mary hissed. But Sani wouldn't budge. He understood the white man's ways better than she realized. The sheriff's office had been bought out by Silas Drake. If she went back there with a body and a wounded boy, they would bury her with them. Love doesn't blossom from flowery words. In the West, it begins with cold-blooded agreements. Mary set a condition. She needed Will Moss to survive as a witness. Sani retorted, Mary must not reveal the way to the spring to anyone if she wanted to know the truth behind her father's death. They divided power. Mary held the paper evidence, Sani held the shadows and the path to survival. And from the shadows, the first truth about Silas Drake's empire began to crumble. "I'm sorry," Will sobbed. "My father, he took $10 from Drake to send me to the farm to spread false rumors. To understand the price of water, one must climb the driest cliffs." After more than 2 hours of exhausting effort, Mary finally saw the heart of the mountains. Thorn Creek Spring. This wasn't a gold mine to get rich. This is life. It's where the Apache elders and children take refuge through the devastating dry season. The white people call water property, but to Sani, it's the blood of the mountain range. "Drake doesn't need your farm to raise cattle," Sani said. "He needs it as a legal gateway. Once he controls the farm, he'll level the mountain roads, bringing miners and weapons upstream." Elder Noya wasn't a mystical prophet. She was the living chronicle of the tribe. She gave Mary a piece of oak bearing the Hale family seal. "Your father shed blood here before he swore his oath," Noya said. "Do you carry that blood, Mary Hale?" They returned to the farm to find the iron box containing the original documents. But Silas Drake was one step ahead. Jacob Hale's study was ransacked like a battlefield. They were searching for something that could completely end the Hale family's power. Amidst the ashes, Mary found a dying wish, half-eaten by the fire. "Drake will come again tonight. If I refuse, he will turn it into a bloody conflict with the Apache. If I die, look for me at the northern border." Her father hadn't died of illness. He had been murdered for refusing to betray the water. Mary's goal changed forever in that instant. She didn't just want to keep the barren land. She had to make the culprit pay and prevent a massacre. Sani realized this white girl wasn't an enemy. She was the remnant of a promise. But before they could understand each other, death knocked. Torchlight blazed outside. Silas Drake's soldiers had surrounded the entire farm. There was no turning back. Silas had personally come to erase the last remaining evidence. Sani and Mary were forced to escape through the back door, empty-handed, carrying only half a burnt diary. Sani freed the livestock, using the swirling dust and chaos as a shield. They charged toward the fence under fire, but the pursuers' bullets were faster. The warrior fell with a bullet wound in his side. But Mary was not a fragile flower waiting to be rescued. With ruthless determination, she cut the enemy's saddle ropes, creating a path to survival for both of them. Hidden in the shallow canyon, love was not expressed in words, but in actions. She tore her silk dress to stop his bleeding, refusing to abandon the only one who remained by her side. As the fever began to engulf her, Sani whispered broken words. "Heart's office. Your father used to trust the sheriff." Mary snapped back to reality. The metal box containing the evidence wasn't at the farm. It was right in the lion's den. The warrior always believed that protecting others meant taking a bullet for himself. But tonight, Mary forced him to do something even harder. Trust her. She didn't need a knight. She needed him to survive. Thorn Creek was asleep, but evil never closed its eyes. Mary entered the lion's den alone. Owen Hart's office was littered with signs of a raid and dried bloodstains. The safe lay silent, concealing secrets that could overthrow an entire town. The law can be bought, but the love of a coward is sometimes the key. Mary found her father's iron box. All the documents of life and death were in it. The original land contract, the water agreement with the Apache, and the real debt ledger. Sani fought with knives and guns. Mary fought with her mind. She didn't win with brute force. She won by her ability to see through the lies. Forged signatures, swapped dates, torn maps. Each piece of paper was a nail in the coffin for Silas Drake. But just as the truth was revealed, the door burst open. The predator had returned to its lair. "Sign it, Owen," Silas commanded. "State clearly that Mary Hale has been kidnapped or killed by the Apache mob. I will file the paperwork to take over the farm tomorrow morning." This town wasn't just black and white. It was run on dirty political debts. Owen Hart wasn't a villain by blood, but cowardice had turned him into a puppet. "How much are you going to sell my life for, Owen?" Mary asked. She didn't beg for pity. She used her father's dying words as a knife to cut through the pretense. She read aloud every word about the fake map, the threats, how Silas had driven her father to his death. The truth drives the villain mad, but it also awakens the last vestiges of conscience in a coward. Owen Hart stepped forward to shield her. He didn't become a great hero, but he had the courage to say no. 3 owl hoots ripped through the night. Sani arrived. Though his body was riddled with bullet wounds, he refused to leave Mary alone to face the wolves. He hadn't just come to save her. He had come to protect the evidence she had risked her life to obtain. The predator realized the trap had turned. Silas fled into the darkness, but his shouts still left a death sentence. Ride to the north camp. Burn the spring trail before dawn. The war wasn't over. Silas Drake played his final cruel card. He had taken Will Moss and his son hostage. The ultimatum was clear. Sign the papers selling Hale Thorn Ranch and falsely claim that Sani had kidnapped her, and Mary would be free to leave. If she refused, Silas would hang Sani for murder. He would crush the witness and turn the Apache Mountain into a sea of fire. If she kept the evidence, she could lose the ranch instantly, and the man standing before her. Sani was ready to surrender himself. He'd rather be hanged than see this woman lose her family's inheritance. But he was wrong. Love isn't a blind sacrifice. Love is about bearing the truth together. Mary refused to sign the papers selling the land. She refused to betray him. "My father didn't die to leave me a piece of land," she said, each word clear and distinct. "He died to leave me a choice." She handed some of the evidence to Owen Hart. If she and Sani died tonight, the truth had to live on. Owen Hart folded his pocket watch shut. "Their northern camp has begun to stir," he said. "They'll set fire to the path up the stream at dawn. You have less than 3 hours." To race against death, they had to choose a path even the devil wouldn't dare tread. Devil's Wash, a dry, cracked creek. The only shortcut to get the evidence to the territorial judge before Silas set the mountain on fire. But in Arizona, nature never just stands by. It's a brutal test of survival. The first monsoon rains of the season poured down. The water from upstream didn't flow, but crashed down like a wall of bricks. Flash flood. They were trapped between nature's fury in front and Silas Drake's gun behind. Sani used her mountain instincts to find the only way to survive. But Mary didn't just stand by. With the strength of desperation, she pulled the witness from the jaws of death, saving the iron box in the process. Even Owen Hart, once a coward, now used his body to block the floodwaters, protecting the original map. Silas survived, but the madness in his eyes was beyond control. As the floodwaters receded, dawn broke in a gray haze. From the north, columns of black smoke began to rise. Silas's henchmen had set fire to the mountain. The mountain was ablaze. There was no time for legal formalities. The cramped telecommunications station instantly transformed into the final battlefield. Silas stormed in, shouting false accusations, accusing Mary of conspiring with barbarians to rebel. To bring down an empire of lies, Mary didn't need bullets. She used the very laws of the white people. She laid pieces of truth on the table. The delivery boy's testimony and the police badge thrown onto Owen Hart's desk became the final nails in Silas Drake's coffin. Cornered, the mad beast decided to destroy the truth with bullets. But Sani wouldn't let that happen. He overpowered Silas. The blade was at the enemy's throat. With just one cut, the warrior would avenge her father and her people. But Sani didn't pull the trigger. He didn't slit his throat. He had conquered his own rage. By sparing Silas's life in the presence of the law, Sani prevented Silas from becoming the pretext for a new ethnic war. The judge struck the gavel. Justice in this remote frontier region was finally served by the truth. The culprit was imprisoned, but the embers of the fire were not yet extinguished. The source of life-giving water was still crying out. They had no time to celebrate. Weeks later, the fire was out, and the autumn wind brought life back. The auction was canceled, the boundary was protected, a new agreement was made. Downstream water for livestock, upstream access permanently for the Chiricahuas. It wasn't a perfect paradise yet. Prejudiced glances still lingered, but war hadn't broken out. Mary returned to where the water divided the boundary. She placed her father's contract back on the wooden stake. And from the hillside, the man who had once terrified her, the beastly figure, now rode leisurely down into the sunlight. "Are you still afraid of the man on the cliff?" he asked. Mary smiled. Her fear had been washed away by the water. She only feared the day people would forget the true value of a home. Love in the West needed no proof of vows. It was proven by their shared journey, placing their hands on the boundary between two worlds, keeping a promise together. Jacob Hale kept his promise, and now that water, that roof, is theirs. Thank you for accompanying Mary and Sani to the end of their journey, to see that a true home is always preserved by truth and courage. If you enjoy stories of love and survival in the Wild West, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next adventures. See you on the other side of the mountains.